Our final guest this month is no stranger to Black Nouveau. Last year, his Black String Triage Ensemble was the focus of Marquise Mays' Black String documentary that was available throughout the PBS system, airing here on Black Nouveau.
The Black String Triage Ensemble is a group of Black and Latinx musicians, violin, viola, cello, upright bass, that play at the scene in the immediate aftermath of tragic events. We in Milwaukee have chosen to prioritize shootings, reckless driving occurrences, and drug overdoses.
Dayvin Hallmon joins us now as the executive director of the Black Diaspora Symphony Orchestra, which will be in concert on June 14th performing Cries from Our Soul. Dayvin, welcome.
Thank you.
All right, first off, talk about Cries from Our Soul. What should we expect from that performance?
Cries from Our Soil is a brand new world premiere piece written specifically for this occasion. It is written in tribute to Jeffrey Dahmer's victims, their families, Sade Robinson, and others that have been lynched. The composer of it is Autumn Maria Reed. The poet supplying the text is Britt Nicole. Soloist, Michaela Usher, and visual artist Brooks and Lloyd Dixon, chorus director Lee Stovall. So it's a lot of parts together. It's designed to be, it's a song basically sung by orchestra. They're short work, not long. And it focuses not so much on the grief part, but on the remembrance and honor and humanity of lives lost with an eye towards hope, and that we have an obligation to come together to make that real.
So I've heard of a few of the pieces, of course, saw it at the film festival, but I'm thinking, what's the motivation behind focusing on the Jeffrey Dahmer victims, and just why go there as far as, something, that is so traumatic for a lot of people still here in Milwaukee?
So I realize there are people that say, why such a horrible topic for Juneteenth? I think that's a valid question. But if we look at the history very closely, what we see is that once the Emancipation Proclamation came out and word spread through the land whenever your state wanted to act right, that lynching had a very massive uptick in this country. And so as we celebrate now what I believe will be, the second official Juneteenth in this country, as others bat around and kick around the phrase Civil War, we as Black Americans in particular have to keep in mind that our freedom comes with a cost. It isn't just Crispus Attucks in terms of the American Revolution. It continues. It's lynching. It's the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And Angela Yvonne Davis makes a wonderful point about racism. She says racism changes. It transmutes itself, right? So when we look at, God forbid saying his name, Dahmer, Maxwell Anderson, and their actions, it isn't necessarily the same as what we see with Emmett Till, but historically, they are right in line in terms of that pattern. There are similarities, there are echoes, and so the purpose of this is not to focus on the assailants. The purpose of this is to uplift the victims. So other than the mention of those two names that I just said before, that will be all.
All right, now plenty more pieces to talk about. 7 Last Words of the Unarmed by Joel Thompson. Talk about that and what that piece means.
Joel Thompson is an absolute genius, in my opinion. His work, written in 2015, 7 Last Words of the Unarmed, is the last words of 7 Black men before they were shot by police. Okay. Why include this in the program? Well, if you look at the history of lynching, law enforcement plays a role, sometimes overtly and sometimes very passively by not stopping it from happening. There are those that would argue perhaps that in the modern era, as we understand lynching today, that what we have seen with police violence would fall in line with that. So in that right, it makes sense to include that on the program. I'm impressed by how Mr. Thompson thinks about and uses the idea of pulse in terms of the music, in terms of the loss of life of a person as it is occurring. There's one particular movement that is very dreamlike, and the words are, "Mom, I'm going to college." And you are forced to confront the fact that this is a human being that is someone's hope.
Epitaph of a Man Who Dreamed. It's the next one we're going to talk about. That there, an ode to Dr. Martin Luther King.
Yes, Adolphus Hailstork's depiction of people coming to the grave of the civil rights leader, grieving and walking away, realizing that they have an obligation to carry the torch.
And then Symphony Number 4, William Grant Still. Talk about that.
William Grant Still Symphony Number 4 is a symphony in name only. 4 movements, and you get little bits of gospel, blues, jazz, but at the very end of it, his closing statement, it is strictly soul music, and he actually calls the theme from that the spirit of generosity of the American people.
So all these pieces, what do you hope people get from this experience as a whole?
We need something, I think, in this particular moment that acknowledges the history, that uplifts our humanity, and in America's most segregated city, confronts racism, but also brings us together. And what better way to do that than the unexpected space of classical music?
And when and where can we see and experience this?
Friday, June 14th at the Washington Park Bandshell at 7:00 p.m. Concert will last approximately an hour and 45 minutes. No ticket, it's free, family friendly.
Dayvin, thank you so much for joining us. Always welcome here.
Thank you.